Okay, thanks to Park Systems for the invitation of this Nanoscientific Symposium. My name is Jose Juan Gervasio Arciniega, and I'm going to show an AFM technique that allows to study ferroelectric materials. These materials are special materials, and the piezo-response for microscopy is a technique that allows to study and modify the piezoelectric and ferroelectric properties at nanoscale. With this technique, we can observe the distribution of the ferroelectric domains, and we can measure the switching kinetic of these domains, or we can modify these ferroelectric domains with the help of the conductive tip. In my university, I have a XE7 Park Systems AFM, and to this AFM, we adapt externally some electrical models to measure or to obtain the PFM mode. Before, I was working in the north of Mexico in this Center of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology of the UNAM, and we developed some techniques that we adapt to the same XA7 AFM from Park Systems, and we can see in this picture all the instrumentation that we adapt to this EFM for measure these ferroelectric materials. In this talk, we're going to see important definitions. We're going to define what is a ferroelectric material, and next we want to see how is the experimental setup of the PFM. Next, we're going to compare between two techniques called conventional PFM and resonant PFM. And next, we're going to describe a technique called resonance tracking PFM, and we're going to see a commercial modes of PFM. We're going to see another technique called pinpoint PFM, and finally I'm going to talk about artifacts in PFM. What is a ferroelectric material? A ferroelectric material are materials with spontaneous polarization, which can be modified by applying external electrical fields. These ferroelectric materials are ferroelectrics, and these ferroelectric materials has an effect called inverse piezoelectric effect, and this effect refers to the formation of these materials that results from the application of an electrical field. This inverse piezoelectric effect we're going to use in the piezo-response for microscopy to measure ferroelectric materials. And how works this PFM technique? This PFM, or piezo-response for microscopy, works with the help of conductive cantilever. With this conductive cantilever, we apply AC bias to the sample, and this ferroelectric material going to expand or contract due to this piezoelectric inverse effect, and this expansion or contractions of this material is going to obtain it by the photodetector of the EFM, and with the locking amplifier, we can compare the two signals, the signal response of the material and the signal applied to the sample. And by comparing these two signals, the signal applying and the signal of the response of the material, we can see that in some regions of the of the material, the signal is in phase with the signal applied, and in other places, in other domains, the signal is off the phase. And with this property, we can obtain the distribution of the domains in these kind of samples. See this animation. In this animation, we can see the movement of the cantilever. It's important to see that the cantilever is going to respond different for the domains that are in the plane, and the domains are oriented out of the plane. To measure the two different responses, we use the response of the photodetector. If the movement, the photo, to obtain the in plane mode, we detect the horizontal response of the photodetector. If we want to measure the outplane mode, we measure the vertical response of the photodetector. The most usual or the typical measurements is going to be with the outplane in the outplane mode. For these measurements, the typical image that we obtain are the topography, amplitude, and phase. This amplitude PFM and phase PFM image needs to follow these two rules: that the amplitude should be independent of the reflective polarization direction, and the phase shift across opposite polarized domains should be 180 degrees. So the amplitude needs to show the domain walls, and the phase image going to show the domain distribution in our sample. But how to choose the frequency of the AC voltage that we use? To answer this question, we need to obtain the amplitude response at a point in the sample with a fixed voltage and varying the frequency. And we obtain a graph like this. In this graph, we see two different regions. The first region is a region far away from the resonance frequency. And if we chose the frequency in these regions, we're going to call this technique as conventional PFM. And if we chose frequency near to the resonance frequency, we're going to call this technique as resonance PFM. And how comparing the conventional PFM and the resonance PFM, for comparing these two techniques, it's necessary to observe this equation. For conventional PFM, we have that the piezo response, or the response of the signal obtained in our experiment, is given by this equation, where the d33 is a constant that depends on the material, and the VAC is the voltage applied. For the materials that have a low d33 constant, it's difficult to obtain a high piezo response. For this reason, you can increase the voltage AC. However, some materials are very conductive, and you can damage the sample or the tip if you increase this voltage. For this reason, and for these special materials where when the D33 is very low, you can use the resonance PFM. In the resonance PFM, the piezo response is given by this equation, where has this additional term called Q, that is the quality factor, and this quality factor has a values between 10 and 100. For this reason, the piezo response is higher than in the resonance PFM than the conventional PFM. Let's see an example of measurement with these two techniques. First, with the conventional PFM, choosing a frequency lower than 20 kilohertz, we obtain this kind of image that we can see that in the amplitude, that the amplitude has a direct correlation with the phase and don't follow the rules. The amplitude need to be independent of the phase, and the phase don't has the 180 difference between opposite domains. And for this reason, conventional PFM are no good technique to measure some samples. Let's see the difference with the resonant PFM. We can see that in this resonance PFM, that the amplitude shows the domain walls, and this image is totally independently of this phase image. And we can see that in the phase, the domains are clearly observed, and the difference between domains with opposite polarization has a difference around 180 degrees. However, the resonance PFM are influenced by topographic crosstalk. This topographic crosstalk is due that the samples are not smooth. The samples has some roughness, and for this reason, for this roughness, the resonance peak of the tip contact is going to move through of the sample. For an ideal smooth surface, we can see that the signal of these domains are very similar to the to the ideal response, but however the samples are not so smooth like this. The samples shows some rough, and for this reason the tip contact between the tip and the sample are changing, and these changes change the resonance peak. And with this effect, we have influence of the topography in our PFN measurements. And an example of this topographic effect is given in this image. We can see the measurement of the amplitude and the phase, and we can see some holes, and these holes you can see in the signals of the amplitude and the phase, and these signals are not related to the ferroelectric or piezoelectric response of the material. These are effects of the topography. To avoid these effects, there are some techniques that was developed. One is the dual AC resonance tracking DAR. This is the most popular technique, and this is a commercial technique given by Asylum Research. And in this technique, you used two locking amplifiers to compare two frequencies and try to follow the movement of the resonance peak. Another technique is the band excitation, where you can obtain more information uh, from your measurement, like the maxima maps, like maps of maxima amplitude, a map of frequencies, or a map of Q factor. But these are the commercial models, and you can obtain it. You have a EFM from Asylum Research. This is an example of the use of this dual AC resonance tracking that to avoid this topographic influence. We have the comparison of these two kind of measurements, one with PFM resonance and one with this dart. With this dart, we can see that the the influence of the topography is decreasing in this measurement, and in the amplitude and in the phase disappear this topographic influence, and we can see that the feedback that use this technique, we can see the signal that was keep out of this the PFM signals. We developed a similar technique like this to follow the resonance tracking, the resonance frequency. This technique is called resonance tracking PFM, and with this technique, you obtain in each pixel the amplitude and the phase, pixel by pixel, and you can construct the image of resonance frequency, maximum amplitude, phase of maximum amplitude, and Q value. This is the setup of this technique, the resonance tracking PFM, and we have a acquisition card additionally to the typical PFM setup. With this card, you obtain the data pixel by pixel of this resonance peak, and with MATLAB you process this data and form the image of amplitude and the phase. Here there are example of this kind of measurement, and we can see the amplitude and the phase without effect of this topographic effect, and we additionally have maps of frequency and the Q value maps. Another technique is the pinpoint AFM. This pinpoint AFM was developed to measure mechanical properties in the materials, and in this technique you measure the force curve pixel by pixel, and you obtain mechanical information of the sample, like adhesion force, modulus, and stiffness maps. But this technique can be used to measure the ferroelectric domains in materials that are very soft. And how works this pinpoint PFM? Remember that when you measure this force curve, there are a time window where the teeth are in contact with the sample. By using this time window of the contact, you can apply the AC bias that you need to measure the piezo response. Here in the right, there are an example of a sample that is very, very soft. And if you try to measure PFM with the typical scan of the tip in contact with the sample, you can measure or you can obtain good measure because you're going to separate the material with the tip, and you're going to have the problems to obtain a good piezo response signal. However, if you use this pinpoint technique, you can obtain good image of the amplitude and the phase because you don't are scanning and uh, uh, scanning the sample. And in our laboratory, we adapt this technique and choose the correct parameters to measure pinpoint PFM fields in a standard sample. We obtain this amplitude and phase domains, and you can see that it's clear the in the amplitude the domain walls, and in the phase the domains distribution. And next we use this technique to measure unsolved sample. This hydroxapatite is very soft sample, and we use this pinpoint PFM to measure this distribution of domains, and in the amplitude we can see the domain walls. And there are another technique that called PFM hysteresis that is developed to study the switching kinetic of these domains. And in this technique, you use the same AC bias, but we addition another signal, another DC signal like this, and we can obtain these kind of curves of amplitude and phase. There are important topic in this technique that was developed in recent years. In, in recent years, some people measure or use this technique in glass, and they detect these hysteresis loops of amplitude and phase, and they begin to say that the technique don't works because are not definitely to define if the technique can identify if the material is ferroelectric or not ferroelectric, because they obtain these similar curves in materials that are not ferroelectrics. And this is another example where they polarize some areas with applying this voltage, and in a concentric area they apply other the inverse voltage, and they obtain this image that is similar to switch the domains in a ferroelectric material, and these material are not ferroelectric. Another experiment was made in silicon, and we can see the hysteresis loops obtained in this material. However, when they scan the area where this when carry out these measurements, they detect that there are a deformation of the silicon. But the person begins to ask if this technique are a good technique to study these materials, because can be give you a signals that are not ferroelectric. And this Sergei Kalinin ask if these kind of measurements are ferroelectric or not. And for this topic, several techniques was developed to detect this kind of artifacts. This kind of artifacts uh, could be by different ways. Has cantilever sample electrostatic interactions, electrostriction, flexoelectricity, inherent problems with the system. For the identification of these non-ferroelectric and ferroelectric signals from PFM, there are criteria uh, where you use the first and second harmonic. You see this equation where this is the formation by the application of the electrical field. You can see that there are two parts that depend of the polarization and one part that don't depend of this polarization. And this part is the electrostatic contribution. And this electrostatic contribution can be detected by the second harmonic. And this criteria is based on this. If you obtain a signal in the second harmonic similar to the first harmonic, your signal that you measure are no ferroelectric, and this is a glass. This is a no ferroelectric material. However, for PCT, that is a typical ferroelectric material or the most popular ferroelectric material, you can observe that the fifth harmonic, this part of the equation, is higher than the second harmonic, than this part of the equation. And we have the one criteria to decide if your signal that we measure is or not from the ferroelectric origin. And this is an example how identify artifacts in PFM. We have a KNN sample, and we measure the PFM, the phase and the amplitude, and we can see that there are two zones or two regions. One region where the domains are clearly identified, and the region B where there are no domains. You can observe domains in this part B of the sample. And in the amplitude signal, we can see clearly the domain walls in the A region, and in the B region, the amplitude is almost zero. Maybe the domains are in the plane. Is why we use the in-plane PFM, and we measure this phase and amplitude, and we can see that in this region we have the distribution of domains, and we don't have a signal in this part of the sample. And in the same in the amplitude response, we have domain walls in this region of the sample, and we don't have response in this region. And we apply this voltage in one region of the sample, and in a concentric area, we apply the opposite external field, and we measure the PFM image, and we obtain this image where we can see that we modify these domains, and we can see the domain walls in the amplitude signal. However, this measurement was time zero. Immediately after to apply this voltage. However, later we can see that these domains disappears in this region, and the polarization conserved in this region of the sample. And the amplitude, we can see that is near to zero in this image. For this reason, we suspect that this region, the B, are not ferroelectric and the A region are ferroelectric. And we use the amplitude criteria, and we can see that the that the first harmonic in the ferroelectric part, the first harmonic are higher than the second harmonic, and in the region B, we can see that the signals are similar. For this reason, the region A are ferroelectric and the region B is a non-ferroelectric region. This criteria of the first and second harmonic amplitude depends of the tip that you use. Here we have a soft tip, and we use the first and the second resonance frequency, and we measure these curves to compare the difference between the first and the second harmonic, and we can see that depend of the voltage that we use for the first resonance frequency, and in some voltage the second harmonic is higher than the first harmonic, and this measurement was made in a ferroelectric material, and this criteria of the second and first harmonic don't works if you use a high voltage. If you use a tip a stiff tip, you obtain this difference of the second and the first harmonic. For this tip, there are no problem for compare this first and second harmonic to say if the if the signal of PFM is due to the ferroelectric or no ferroelectric signal. We develop a criteria additional to this criteria of the amplitude. We use the difference of the phase of the first and the second harmonic, and we can see the difference of the phase of the first and the second harmonic in glass. This is the difference, and in PCT, a typical ferroelectric material, we have a difference of 90 degrees of this first and the second harmonic, and we use this criteria for study or ceramic. And in the non-ferroelectric zone, we can see that the difference of first and second harmonic in phase are now 90 degrees, is the black line. And in the region A, we can see that the difference between the first and the second harmonic are more or less 90 degrees. When you use a soft tip, you can observe or obtain this kind of measurements by using the first resonance frequency of the cantilever. This is the first resonance frequency, and for soft cantilevers, you obtain this kind of measurements. You can see that don't follow the rules that we explained before. And if you use the second frequency, the second resonance frequency, you obtain this kind of measurements, and you can see that these measurements follow the rules that we talked before. If you use a stiff tip, you can use the typical PFM, and you can use the resonance PFM to obtain good PFM image in ferroelectric materials. And if you use additional DC voltage, you can compensate this voltage, and you can avoid this part that is electrostatic influence of the in the PFM measurements. And here we have an example where here we measure at 76 kilohertz with 0 VDC applied, and we can see the domains, the amplitude, and the phase. And we can see if we apply this voltage, we can see the difference that in amplitude we can see the domain wall, and the distribution of the domains is very clear in the phase. And this is the summary of methods developed for detect artifacts in PFM. There are strategies to develop to address artifact-related problems in PFM, identification strategies, strategies to avoid artifacts, and strategies to decrease artifacts in PFM. And has conclusions, PFM is a powerful tool to visualize and manipulate ferroelectric domains at a nanoscale. PFM allows study the behavior of ferroelectric switching locally, and PFM measurements can be influenced by non-ferroelectric contributions. However, many strategies have been developed to avoid identify and counter PFM artifacts. This is my EFM team. Eduardo Murillo Bracamontes and Edgar Cruz Valeriano are electronics, and doctora M. de la Cruz Paz Jauregui and Dr. Cristian Iván Enriquez Flores are professors and are physics, and these are our students. Thanks.